All right, students, welcome back from lunch. Hope you had a good lunch as I did. I know after eating as much as I did, I'm ready to take a nap. But don't worry, in a few minutes I'll get you into the firewalls. This is where we start applying some of that theory that we did in the morning, and we really get our hands into it, and I know you'll be able to be excited. This is the part you've been looking forward to. However, before we jump right into Chapter 3, I want to spend a minute going over some important topics that we touched on, but I want you to understand why they're so crucial, and they're going to be important not only for your day-to-day administration of a firewall going forward, but also for your understanding and troubleshooting of if something's going wrong, where did it go wrong? So remember, the SRX is a complex system. Not only does it do switching and routing for us, but we're concentrating on the firewall, and that's where we're going to spend the next 3 days. Just briefly, we know we talked yesterday about how a router can do some filtering. Although it's not designed to do that, it's capable of doing a little bit. So a router is designed to facilitate or pass traffic on. What we want to talk about now is the firewall, which is stopping traffic. Let's let the router do its job. It's good at it, and it routes traffic effectively. And then when it gets to the firewall, now's where we're going to filter it. Now's where we're going to look at what's inside that packet. Do I allow that packet? Do I allow that type of traffic? Do I allow this path of communication? So you saw this picture. What I want you to know is we're going to spend some more time on this picture every single chapter, because basically each of these blue blocks represent a chapter that we're going to be going over for the next 3 days. So let's spend a minute. We looked at a smaller version of it in the previous chapter. This one's expanded a little bit. It's at the beginning of our Chapter 3, and you'll see it at each and every chapter after that. As you'll notice, a packet, when it comes in, there's a couple of red boxes here. Packet filters, policer, shaper. These are things that can be done on the SRX box, or also have been done on a router throughout traditional history. We're going forward, we're going to say, we've considered that. Now we're into what we want to consider the root of the firewall, how it looks at our information, and we're going to look at how our packet is processed. So our packet, when it comes in, it could be the first packet, or it could be one of many. If it's the very first one, it will take the upper path. So sometimes I'll call that the long path. Here in this particular diagram, it calls it the first path. You'll see it's a little more involved. However, if the packet comes in and it's already existing, it's already had a communication established, and maybe this is just another piece of that data stream, then it may fall into the fast path. Well, how do I know that? The first time it comes in, the device looks at that packet and says, do you belong to an existing session? So if you look over here, you can follow along in your book. It's also here. It says match session. I know in your book it's in black and white. Here it's in color. It's a blue box that says, do I have a session that I match? And basically that differentiates whether I'm going to take that long path or that short path, whether I have to evaluate all these particular items, or whether I can jump right into the shorter already existing path. One of the key things I want you to note is the first thing it's going to look at is screen options, and they're on both paths. Why is that? Let me tell you what screen option does. Screen options is going to get rid of some malware. It's going to get rid of any problem packets or anything that's malformed. What you might ask is, well, why do I have to have it twice? It's possible as I initiate some traffic, I have some malware, or I have a malformed packet, a deformed packet, a troublesome packet, too large, too small, something along those lines I don't want. Think of screens as actually a screen, a filter, but with large holes. It's going to screen out the large chunks of dirt. I'm not going to stop now and take time to look deep into the packet. As a matter of fact, I'm going to wait to the very end and then make sure that the traffic I only have at the end is pure, clean, proper traffic. Then I'll spend a little bit more time looking into it. Remember, that does take a certain amount of processing power on your device, so I don't want to waste that processing power at this point evaluating traffic that's not legitimate. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to put a large filter up there, and I'm going to screen out illegitimate traffic. Maybe it's a packet that's fragmented, and I don't want to deal with those. Or maybe there's something else that's going on. So whether I initiate a first packet or whether I'm already existing in a session, I could put that malware anywhere I want. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of the transmission. I could wait till we have a successful communication going back and forth, and then I can institute or inject some malware at that point. So I still want to always be evaluating it to see if I have that problem traffic, maybe the old viruses that we're familiar with, or some of the old attacks that have been going on for years. After that, you'll see that the paths differentiate. Just briefly, we're going to go over a few of them. DNAT, destination NAT. This is kind of if we want to hide something in the background, and we've done some natting maybe on a web server that's behind our firewall, and our DMZ are all the way back in. A little bit different than the one you're going to see later on, SourceNet. This is the most popular one. Probably constitutes somewhere between 85 and 90% of our traffic. This is what you might be familiar with. If you have a small company, you have one public IP address, and you have 10 or 100 people sitting behind they have their own IP addressing scheme in the network, and as they go out, they pick up that source NAT, that one that's going to be publicly routable. If you have a larger company, you may have a pool of public addresses to support that 1,000 or 5,000 people inside your organization. So we could use destination NAT. I'll look for that one first. Then it'll decide if the route and the zones are legitimate. In other words, do I have an actual physical route to get from destination 1 to destination 2? So from where I started, can I get to the place that they're asking me to get to? Can I see that IP address located down the road? Yes, if I can see it and there's a physical path to get to it, all right. Let's look and see if the zones exist. If I'm going to go from the HR zone to the engineering zone, do those both exist? The HR zone, is it going to allow traffic out? Is the engineering zone going to allow traffic in? And that's where you'll see it starts to bring in forwarding lookup. Is something there? Can I reach that zone? Yes, I do have a path to get to that particular zone. That zone does exist. But now is the key point we're bringing in the policy. This is what you might be familiar with as we build our firewalls and our policies. We may have 200 policies. Do I allow traffic from the HR zone into the engineering zone? Now, probably in a real company, that might not be a legitimate need. But maybe from engineering to research, we allow it. So if the traffic was going from the engineering zone to the research zone, yes, traffic is allowed. Now it's going to say what type of traffic is allowed. Well, do I allow traffic on this port? Do I allow this particular type of traffic? And that's our policy. At any of these points, if it fails, well, at that point, our traffic will fail, right? But if I continue to find out that each piece meets it, or in some cases is not necessary, I will continue on this evaluation. The policy is available. Yes, it does allow traffic. Source NAT, and then finally we'll get to the services. This one where we might be able to inspect things a little bit deeper. ALGs, we can do application layers, depending on maybe we have some VoIP traffic going on, or we may want to do some IDP at this point and look deeper into the traffic, actually inspect it for some of that malware we talked about. And then finally it will go ahead and create a session for us. In other words, now I'm going to enter a particular ID for this session, for this type of traffic, and everything that comes after that is going to reference that session ID, and I'm going to put it on our session table. And we'll spend some more time talking about session tables. If not, I've already gone through this before, and as I meet this session, yes, then I'm going to go into my screen options, valid TCP traffic, NAT, and those services before I can leave the firewall and actually head to my final destination. So this is a key integral part. You'll need to know how to do it. Not only do you want to understand all the parts and pieces, and as we go through each of these chapters, I'll kind of stop at the beginning and I'll show you this picture again and I'll say, we're going to cover this particular chapter. We know that the path exists. Now let's look and see if we have a policy for it. And it's crucial for you to understand how the traffic flows in order to be able to do that troubleshooting, which I'm sure you want to learn from this class. So keep this picture in mind. If you can, this is probably the most important screen you're going to get out of this particular chapter. And let's jump into chapter 3. And we're going to start off right at the beginning with our session options.